Okay. Fair enough. Okay. This one has pages. Good evening. It is Monday, September 30th, 2024. It is 6:05 p.m. This is the day 2 of the City of Binghamton City Council budget hearings on the proposed 2025 budget. This evening we'll be hearing from Fire, Public Works, and the examining boards and code. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is a committee of the whole being chaired by myself as chair of the Finance Committee. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton is absent. Council President Matavetsky.
Present.
Councilmember Dundon.
Present.
Councilmember Costi.
Present.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Present.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to call down Fire Chief Al Gardner, please, along with the comptroller to present the fire department budget. Good evening, Chief. Hi, Chuck.
Good evening. How are we doing?
Good. Hello. All right, so you have sent out a kind of prepared overview. Do you want to address that first, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. The 2025 proposed budget overview for the fire department encompasses personnel services, recurring operational expenses, and capital improvements. Fires, actually, it's on A3410 pages.
Hold on, one second. Let me, sorry, got the the official. Can we please open pages 67 to 72 and capital 224 to 225, and then the fee schedule will be on 228. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So the operational budget totals $11,316,861.54. Now, this includes personnel costs, utility costs, apparatus and vehicle repairs, fuel costs, operational expenses, contractual services, and many other items. Personnel services on page 67 accounts for a majority of the fire department budget. Most are salaries, which are set by the fire contract yearly. There are currently 5 vacancies now in the department, with potentially 7 firefighters retiring by next April. So in the past, we've always been able to hire new firefighters and replace these recruits in a timely manner. Holiday pay on page 67 is pursuant to the contract. It's decreasing in the 2025 budget based on past spending department-wide. AL leave time pursuant to the contract is paid at the end of the year. There are no changes for 2025. Ambulance duty pay.
What does AL stand for?
Accumulated leave.
Accumulated leave.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Do you understand what that is, how that works? I could explain it, but so anyway, ambulance duty pay in page 68 is decreasing by $3,000 in 2025 based on past spending. Excuse me. So overtime, factors driving overtime are largely contractual and salary increases. Factors contributing to overtime include unfilled positions, sick time, job-related injuries, non-job-related injuries, military leave, Family Leave Act, maternity leave, personal leave, vacation, accumulated leave, training, union business leave, special events, fire investigation, fireworks, shift overrun, multiple alarm fires, and severe weather events. And mandated shift minimums mean when a shift becomes understaffed, when someone calls out sick, etc., the spot must be filled to meet the minimum staffing requirements. The firefighter who picks up the shifts receives overtime. So there's currently no change in the 2025 overtime budget. We were just fortunately, we were awarded a federal SAFER grant to support hiring of 8 new firefighters over 3 years, which should help a great deal cut down on overtime. EMS supplies on page 69 are increasing by $2,500 to account for price increases of gloves, medical supplies, etc. Uniforms, it's decreasing by approximately $20,000 in 2025 based on moving turnout gear as a transfer to the capital line. Insurance is increasing by about approximately $1,400 in 2025. The insurance covers the paramedics and any liability they may incur because of them and line of duty incidents, etc. The rate is set each year when the new insurance renewals are signed. Personnel services are increasing by $5,000 in 2025 based on past years. This covers ambulance billing and is based on the number of runs the BFD ambulances do. So we get paid by each transport. Building equipment improvement and maintenance is increasing by approximately $21,000 next year, partially due to new maintenance and service contracts needed for the new fire headquarters. These were expected expenses as the building was new and it was covered for the first 2 years. Equipment repairs and maintenance is pages 70 and 71, increasing by approximately $9,600 due to needed repairs to the kit of fire trainer and general cost increases. Travel and training is increasing by approximately $5,600, partially tied to the number of paramedics requiring training and also an increase in BCC tuition amounts. The peer support team supplies, page 71, that provides mental health services, support groups for firefighters pursuant to the contract, no change in 2025. Capital improvements on pages 224 through 225. The BFD capital improvements budgets for 2025 includes $117,000 for equipment, including an ambulance stretcher and stair chair, rescue equipment, including water rescue and rope rescue, and firefighter turnout gear. So the fee schedules increases to the ambulance charges and EMS special event coverage fees were increased, and these have not been changed in many years. It needed to be increased to keep up with costs. So I'll welcome any questions that you have.
I'll open the floor to questions. Anyone want to go first? Councilwoman Matavec?
Yeah, I have a kind of a
Okay.
general question about how, when we actually respond to fires, how that's reflected in our costs. Because obviously we have to maintain all this equipment and have everyone ready for big events. But I want to kind of understand how much it costs when we actually have to respond.
If the shift is obviously it's fully manned, and it's kind of it's a set cost as far as personnel goes, but if it goes to a second alarm, we call in additional companies. We'll call in 3 firefighters and they'll man a spare rig. And so that's an overtime cost right there. As far as a breakdown of what it costs to respond to a structure fire, I'm not sure what that exactly is, but like I said, it would be a full alarm with fully staffed fire engines, and the cost of it would be a little complicated to break down, but you could give it a shot if you want.
So we're gonna obviously be having our discussion with code later on, so it's kind of trying to understand the overall costs of when we have fires versus fire prevention.
Yeah, hopefully, fire, well, fire prevention also, hopefully that limits the cost. Yeah, we're not responding to fires, and that's a great thing, and we try to put ourselves out of business.
Does like when you actually are using the equipment, does that increase the maintenance costs? Is there,
Oh, sure.
like-
Well, things they tend to break. And like for example, fire trucks are full of water. The gauges are full of water. There's tanks full of water, hoses are full of water, and in the winter they tend to freeze. And the gauges are very expensive. They break. But it's you're dragging this equipment, which is very expensive, into burning buildings. It takes a lot of heat and a lot of damage. So it's that would definitely contribute to the cost of a fire.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. It's not quite related to budget, but it's like when you are responding to a call, and you're using a fire engine, how, like, what percentage of those calls are actually fire calls when there's? So
Yeah, about 80% of our calls are EMS, and
Okay.
the rest are probably fire calls. And the fire calls, they vary from details, which would maybe be two companies. If it's a report of a smoke detector, there's somebody's hearing it outside the house, they'll detail two companies there to investigate it. If smoke's showing or flames, that's a full alarm. So they're going to get basically the whole shift except for one company. But it's like I said, it's about 20% of our calls are fire related calls. We're probably around 200 to 300 working fires a year.
thank you.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh. Nope. All right. I guess I'll take a stab here at a few things. So I think historically speaking, the fire department has been able to keep closer to what you would consider fully manned, fully staffed, fully staffed compared to, say, the police department, which has had some more historic issues keeping the ranks full. Having said that, overtime continues to seem to push over what has been budgeted. We're $150,000 over this year's budget, and last year was, I think, $100,000 over budget or so. We understand about, there's minimal staffing on shifts and in the stations and deployment. But considering you're able to keep closer to fully staffed, has there been any consideration of other mechanisms other than overtime? When the Postal Service, for example, has carriers that are just fill-ins. Could we ever get to the point where instead of having, somebody goes out, somebody comes in on overtime, we have an extra firefighter or two that would literally be cheaper to have them keep subbing in around, or recently retired guys that might be willing to come back on a part-time basis or something. I don't know if, and again, there could very well be union restrictions against that, or just it's not good practice. I don't know, but I'm just asking about other ways to deal with the needed staffing without going right to overtime.
Right. Okay.
The big questions.
Yeah, that's a big question. Well, one mitigating factor could be this grant that we're going to be awarded. It's going to increase our shift staffing by 8. And another factor is the department is turning over rapidly, so we got a lot of younger people in. They're not so prone to injuries. And, you know, as far as bringing in retired firefighters, that's possible, but most of them retire for a reason. You know, they don't want to come to work anymore, and there's a lot of restrictions as far as training goes. They have to have so many hours of training a year, so that would be difficult. You know, then of course we have a union contract, and the I don't know, you know, you talking like make volunteers or something like that, or?
No, no,
Yeah.
not volunteers.
Yeah.
But you know, literally getting to the point where this is our full staffing number, and we have 1 or 2 people on the payroll that are literally just the rotational fill-ins.
Right. No,
Busy.
that wasn't considered, but that's an interesting idea. But they would, like I said, I'm not sure how that would fit in with the number of hours they work. If they're working their regular shift, you saying work the regular shift and an additional?
No, I'm saying that their entire job
Yeah.
would be to sub in.
Oh,
Like, I'm
okay.
assuming you have people going out.
Okay.
You
Like
know, it's
floats, like nurses,
a float.
nurse floats.
Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
A float. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a.
Well,
I
that's an
wonder if that
interesting
ever been
idea.
thought
It'd
about.
be worth considering. We will. Sure.
Do you mind?
No, please,
Okay,
Deputy
fine.
Mayor.
I just wanted just 2 things on that. On that concept specifically, I think you'd run into union issues, but we'd have to check the contract. But you made the comparison with police overtime, and I just wanted to point out what I think is an important difference between police and fire and their overtime. In a lot of ways, it's like apples and oranges, because while the both have mandated shifts requirements and minimums. For the fire department, if they don't meet that minimums, that literally means like they'd have to close a fire station. So with police, you could take if you're short on patrol, you could take a sergeant who's on the desk and move him. It looks different for
Sure.
fire.
Sure, and that's appreciated, and I understand that. It was more of a question of, you know, when the fire department has been able to maintain much closer to full staffing, historically, you know, it's not such a stretch maybe to come up with this concept of a floater, maybe that's able to, you know, just go around and fill whatever gap is occurring in any given week. But yes, I appreciate there are different metrics to the question.
Just to point that out.
All right, thank you. Okay. Leave time, we took it overtime. $14,000 on gloves. Oh my gosh.
They're expensive. They went up. That was thanks to the pandemic.
Let's see. You discussed that about 80% of your calls are EMS calls. So a couple of questions on there. The fee structure, which we will get to, is proposing a slight increase this year. How do those fees compare to Broome Volunteer or Superior or whatever answering a call?
They're very close.
Okay.
We noticed our fees were a little bit lower, not by a great deal, but talked to the comptroller about it, and we agreed to raise them.
All right, so with that increase, we send out those bills and somebody does that, and we contracted out to the tune of $65,000 a year. Do you think that is money well spent, or a function we could be doing in-house, or and maybe by a new person in the fire department, or somebody else in kind of central administration, or?
The billing for ambulances is very confusing because you have to deal with Medicare and Medicaid. There is no way we could do that in-house at that cost.
Really? I thought we'd be experts at dealing with government agencies here in the government.
Most agencies, yes.
Okay, so comptroller thinks this is $65,000 well spent. Okay, and has this is this a contract that goes out to bid ever, or?
I'm sure it does. I'll have to find out when it's due.
Chief, other than all the headquarters, items under the buildings and equipment and maintenance, I know a lot of those are now new contracts. There's money for just general work at some of the remote stations. Anything in particular that's being addressed this year or any particular headaches?
This year, yeah, well, this year we lost our boiler at engine 4. So that was about, I think we lost the heat exchanger, so that was about $5,000-6,000. So these, it's hard to predict what's gonna happen. Overhead doors are always a big headache for us. They get used all the time, and there's a lot of wear and tear in them. And sometimes the house captains will come up with special projects. Maybe they have windows that are cracked, maybe doors they'd replace. A lot of firefighters will do the work themselves. There's a cost savings there, but there's a lot of various projects that they'll usually start hitting my desk in January as soon as the money becomes available again.
What is a kid fire trailer?
The Kid Fire trailer is basically it's a big trailer that's hauled behind a tractor trailer, and it's a fire simulator. And it has artificial smoke. It runs on propane, and it's full of safety features. There's a roof simulator where the firefighters can go down a ladder into an active fire. So they can attack the fire, which is propane. And if they're using the proper technique, training instructor turns off the fire. If they're not using a proper technique, the fire gets bigger. And like I said, they have the artificial smoke in there, and it works very well. So that was a federal grant. We got that through.
Is this something that's exclusively used by the Binghamton Fire Department, or do you share it around?
Mostly, no, we do. Training instructor will bring in volunteer companies, come in and train on it occasionally. We've even had civilians in there. I think we had some council members geared up in there. We put them in the smoke. Yeah, so you consider that an invitation anytime you want. You find out how hot that gear is.
Fair enough. Travel and training is kind of the next one down the list. Seems to be trending possibly under the budgeted amount this year and last year. Is there a particular need this year for the increase?
Yeah, I mean, it's currently, well, I just got the invoice from Broome for the paramedic students this fall. It was $20,000. That was today. So a lot of this money is spent towards the end of the year. Paramedic certifications are billed throughout the year, and they're billed quarterly, so they get billed in December. And so there's a lot of catching up, but the paramedic students are the big expenditure. So I anticipate we'll be spending most, if not all, that money this year.
Okay. Oh, question. Would anyone in the fire department be interested in becoming certified to inspect fire extinguishers, at least within the city government?
I could ask.
That would help every department.
Yeah, and including ours. I'm not sure we'd be allowed to inspect our own fire extinguishers for liability reasons. We have to talk to Corp Counsel about that, but just inspecting them, it's possible. We could look into it. But like I said, I have to talk to.
I mean, it's a small but persistent cost across the, all the
Yeah,
departments of the city.
yeah.
Everyone's got them and
Yeah, well, we have over 100 ourselves.
There you
and,
go.
There's a lot of them on the rigs, but that's an interesting idea. I'll explore that.
here to give thoughts. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. And then I get, and this is possibly more for the comptroller. I'm just still trying to get a grasp on how the vehicle maintenance and parts contract and everything is working. So once again, we have lines in here for parts and oils and tires and things. And does that end up going through Napa, or does fire department maintain its own? I mean, I'm sure you have some super special stuff, but
Yeah, we maintain our own accounts through Napa and AutoZone, and a lot of the parts, especially for the fire apparatus, are proprietary, so we have to buy them through the manufacturer, and they're very expensive. But I don't think we've been using the city service very much at DPW.
No, he only uses it for like a command vehicle.
command
anything
vehicle,
like
fly
that.
cars, whatever.
Yeah, but like he said, for all his bigger vehicles, they are specialty made. Sometimes they take 2 years to build.
3.
And fire department has its own mechanic as well, correct? That's separate. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Chief, I just had a quick question for you on page 69 with the uniform line. I see we're cut the budget $20,000 on that line. This year we spent 168,000. Is there something that's drawing the cost down on the uniforms, or do we buy extra uniforms this year or something like that?
What's drawing it down is we moved money to the capital line for turnout gear. So there was I think 5 sets of turnout gear. They cost about $5,500 a piece. So
And
we just-
comptroller's all right with banning out for 50 grand worth of stuff?
There's some other equipment in there to get it over $100,000. And he's also getting the safer grant as well.
Does that also cover gear?
Take that back. It doesn't cover turnout gear.
I could expand on that.
Yeah.
The 117,000. What they're after is some reach poles for the overhead dam. It's almost like, yeah, you see those, the hooks at public pools.
Yeah.
They use for grabbing people. These are 50 feet long. They're specialized, but they're like $5,000 a piece. There's a lot of specialized rope rescue equipment. There's saws, flotation devices, dry suits, props, and the big items are like I said, the 10 sets of turnout gear. That'll be about 55,000. We need a new stretcher and a stair chair for the ambulance. A stretcher is $40,000, believe it or not. You see those yellow stretchers? You just take patients in and out. They're $40,000. Stair chair we usually, we use for evacuating patients from upper floors and getting them down the stairs. They're about $5,000.
I have
Me too.
another
Oh.
kind of higher level question, I guess, is do we have what we need for another big flood? Do you feel like in this budget, if we had another big flood, you'd have the equipment and or relationship agreements in place
I-
to
I believe so.
Handle
We're, those last 2 floods, we ironed out a lot of problems, and I'm pretty confident. We have the equipment we need. We got new boat motors, new boats. We have a lot of agreements with outside agencies, and I'm pretty confident we're ready for the next one.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to move pages 67 through 72.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I still had more questions.
So Councilman Hutchinson has more questions. Will you withdraw the motion?
No.
No? Okay. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon.
Aye.
Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Nay.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Nay, because Councilman Hotchkiss has questions still.
Thank you. That's 3-2.
Does not pass. Okay, go ahead and ask your questions. Didn't pass.
One,
But 1, 2, 3.
three,
Oh, no,
four.
it is 4. Never
It
mind.
was 4.
It was 4. It is 4. It's 4-2.
4-2.
Sorry. that's
Excuse
passed.
me.
You don't get to ask questions. Sorry.
You can still ask questions, right? I mean, it's just, it's already passed.
Well, it's passed. I mean, I guess you can still ask questions. Well, we didn't do the capital, and that's my last question is, I'm really, just because we've grouped things to be over $100,000 is still not really the intent of a capital expenditure. I think it's starting to get into that area of nebulous practices.
If he doesn't spend it all, you can still have the money left over. It's like a capital improvement plan. If he doesn't buy anything next year, he will still have it if instead of taxing people in the general fund and then not buying it.
But again, the purpose is to keep capital expenditures for things that have longer life and are kind of big ticket items we can't pay out of normal operating expenses.
Yes,
It
turnout
seems-
gear has a 10-year life. It's longer than a lease vehicle. And the stretchers are 10 to 15.
I mean,
10 to
sure.
15.
Ours are
I
20
mean,
years
this
old.
They're all-
council table has
they're
had
all
a 50-year life so far, but I mean, I don't think we bonded. Well, maybe we did bond for it back in the day.
For what? For what now? I didn't hear
I'm
you.
saying the council table.
Oh, that burnt now.
Anyway.
I think the other thing too is there's grant funding available for turnout gear. The fire department was successful in receiving some of that this year. So I don't know if we're able to go after that again, but if it's the funding's available, I'm sure we will. And just because the way I think, Chuck, you know how bands work better than I do, but just because we're getting the council approval for it, if we don't need it because we have grant funding, we wouldn't have to go out and borrow it.
That's correct. If we get grant funding, we don't have to borrow the money.
Yeah, and Rachel just said if we do borrow it, we can just pay it back with the grant money off the bat when we have it. So I'd imagine that was part of the reason for moving that too. I think it was Senator Webb that got the turnout gear
Yep.
money this year.
Yeah, but that's not
That was-
next year, and that's not for what you're asking for now. That's something that happened in the past, right?
But I think because we were successful in getting it last year and the money and the funding is available, we'll go for it again if it's still out there.
Is that realistic to, it's like that was like a $250,000 grant to expect that again?
The turnout gear, I think it was 150,000.
For the fire engine?
Oh, no, for turnout gear,
Oh.
turnout gear.
That was a separate grant? Okay. And is that something that's commonly like re-granted annually?
She usually has a pool of money and she asks what we need. So it's possible to apply for it again next year.
Okay.
And Rachel pointed out too, I'm gonna bring her a microphone shortly.
Sure.
You want to explain that?
If you'll notice, the uniforms went down by 20,000 for 5 turnout gear. And the chief had just mentioned that he needs 10 this year because of how outdated it is and all the new recruits, which would mean that we need 50,000. That's a bit to fund with the general fund, and it has a useful life of 10 years. So it just made sense to put it in the band for this year. They needed twice as much.
So, I mean, so it sounds like the stretcher is a $40,000 expense, and then we got 55,000 for turnout gear. How often do you have a cycle that you're replacing turnout gear, or is it
Yeah,
as the new folks come on board, or?
yeah, it's a 10-year cycle. It has to be, after 10 years, we have to use it. They can use it for a second set of gear, but they need a new set. Those are NFPA standards. So that would be the cycle. And a lot of our gear is getting old. So
I would say this is an extremely predictable expense. Like you can literally have an expiration date on this gear that we could plan out again.
that fair to say, yeah.
So, although I appreciate the cost has increased over the last few years.
It's over doubled. Yeah.
All right. If I'm the only one that's hung up on this, I guess. So, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to move the fire lines on pages 224, 225.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Costi, seconded by Council President Matavetsky. Any discussion on the motion? No. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton. Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon.
Aye.
Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 6-0.
And then we will open page 228, the fee schedule, which I brought up earlier, but Chief, any specifics other than what we talked about earlier?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, we haven't changed any of the ambulance fees in over 10 years. So we've just raised them a little bit. And including the event fees that the firefighters have to attend.
This is still pretty reasonable. It's like a $25 increase to attend an event. Yeah. Okay. Any questions or discussion on the fire fees?
What kind of events do you attend, and are some of them like internal charges?
Yeah, it's things like the bridge run, mostly city sponsored events. And we will actually will incur the cost of that, but let's see, non-sponsored city events will charge a fee. If they need an ambulance, if there's maybe the arena has 5,000 people, or an event has a very large turnout, they will pay us to have an ambulance there and medic teams.
Yep.
Anyone else? Is there a motion?
Motion to move the fire line items on page 228.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon. Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 6-0.
I think you're done, Chief. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'm going to check in with you about fire extinguisher inspections and a floating fireman. All right. Next, we'd like to welcome down Josh Paludi to discuss the Public Works budget. You want to take this in chunks or do you want us to open everything at once? Chunks, okay.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Let's open pages 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46. So we'll go through signals and then we'll do some questions. Do you want to give your overview?
So for the 2025 budget, I really didn't change a whole lot. A few things here and there. Buildings and grounds decreased slightly based on past usage. Electricity, big increase. Pro services, slight increase due to rising costs. Building equipment improvement and maintenance, an increase of about 5,700. Court improvements, an increase by 3,000 that we actually get reimbursed for. That takes care of the city hall operations. In the central garage, I'm unfunding a mechanic. I'm just having issues finding them. It's been 2 years. I can't get a mechanic. So I'm just going to unfund the position until I can find somebody to take that position. I'm going to increase the overtime by $1,000 for the mechanics that I do have. That's just for in snow events, getting stuff ready for winter or other off the clock things I have with vehicles. The equipment line, I want to increase that by 2,000 just for anticipated costs for new equipment. I'm going to try and decrease the lubricants line by about $2,000 just based on past usage. The electricity line, we're going to increase that by 15,000 again, based on usage. We're going to decrease the vehicle repair by $16,000. I've spent a bunch of money this year improving some of the trucks that we have that really needed it. I'm hoping that helps moving into next year. For the signals and combined shop, I'd like to increase their overtime by about $3,000. That's for events like LUMA, Blues on the Bridge, call outs for my dispatchers, things like that. I'd like to also increase their equipment line. I need to replace some portable radios. I'm going to try and decrease their gen op line by about $6,500 just based on past usage. Their uniforms are going to increase slightly just for the cost of things. And the overtime for the signals and combined shops, I'd like to increase that by about $5,000. Again, community events, having electricians on for LUMA, Blues on the Bridge, when we have the big concerts on Washington Street, that requires electricians, sign guys to come in overtime to take down the no parking signs, make sure that the electric is working correctly through the whole event. That equipment line, that's going to be an increase of 1,500, not a decrease of 1,000. That's a typo right there. And that's just based on to upkeep bucket trucks and things like that. General op is going to increase based on past year's usages. Construction materials are going to increase. I'm sorry, this is for maintenance of roads. I missed the bottom there. For maintenance of roads, we are going to increase the construction material line by $27,000. This year, we were granted ARPA funds for that. Where moving forward, we're not going to get the ARPA funds. So that's just to put it back to right about where we should be for usage for the construction materials. That's all our patch, hot asphalt mix, cold patch for the winter, things like that. Uniforms, again, going to go up just a little bit, contractual. Equipment lease and rental, I'm going to increase that $4,400 just based, again, the cost of renting things when equipment goes down that we can't get fixed right away. Our snow removal line, I'd like to increase that $500 or $5,000. That's all contractual. Moving on to the sanitation line, I need to increase that about $17,000. Again, more clean up after these big events, whether it's LUMA, Parade Day, Blues on the Bridge. We've also added weekend shifts to keep downtown clean. Uniforms, again, a slight increase, contractual. And then it gets into my capital improvements after that we can talk about a little bit later.
Okay. Anyone want to get started?
I know there's been some discussions about putting GPS stuff back on snowplows and things like that. Is that in your budget or is that in like the IT budget? Where would we find that?
That's going to come out of the IT budget.
Are there any other DPW related expenses in IT?
Not really,
No, okay.
just basic stuff in the office for computers and things like that.
I do. In your admin budget, just for my kind of knowledge, you folks keep your own payroll clerk within the department, or is it just the title is payroll clerk and it's general administrative stuff, or what? Or
She does payroll for the admin, signals, combined shops, the mechanics, sanitation and maintenance of road streets.
okay, so says payroll clerk is payroll clerk. Huh.
I just had a quick question. It says that the commissioner, Public Works, it's still vacant. Is that gonna be filled or you're just gonna continue to?
I'm acting commissioner as of right now. I've heard nothing from the mayor about it. I'm very happy doing the job. I have no problem with it. I do the best I can every day.
You do. Thank you. No test though. Okay.
Mr. Paluti, for the equipment lease and rental, do we rent equipment besides when our equipment's broken down, like for lifts for putting the flags up on parade day? Or do we have our own man lifts that go up 40, 50 feet?
We typically use our bucket trucks for that. The electricians have bucket trucks, which I'm currently waiting on one right now. The Parks Department has their own bucket trucks for trees and things like that too. We're getting their bucket van fixed currently right now.
So this is kind of a general question. Maybe the deputy mayor would chime in, or maybe whoever's got the. A few years ago, I think there was talk of kind of a fleet manager position to come in and sort of coordinate and supervise all of the assorted departments, trucks and stuff. Did that ever progress, or was there what happened with that discussion?
I'm not familiar with that. I can look into it, but
I think it was, I might have been might have been the last year of Mayor David's administration that it was
what was it called, Councilman?
a
Is it?
fleet manager position to, coordinate all the, motorized resources essentially. And I wondered, do you remember, Josh?
So that was something that was in the works when the previous commissioner was here. It's definitely something I'm looking into. It's just something we weren't quite ready to push forward with yet. Still kind of in its infancy.
Okay, yeah, I just, I wanted, if it had been still.
I'm still working on it. I have some people in mind for it. I just want to make sure that it makes sense for the city to apply another position like that.
Right. Yeah, it would seem to be a big shift from current practice, but all right, cool. Let's see.
So I got a question about the electricity. It seems like some departments are staying flat about their electrical and gas budgeting because it's under budget, or there's a contract, right? But then is City Hall not covered under that?
That's something I'm gonna defer to Chuck.
Yeah, that's aimed towards Chuck, because we're looking at a $50,000 increase on the electrical spending for City Hall. I think all of Parks said that their electrical costs are gonna stay the same, so I'm just wondering
Yeah.
where.
Yes, most of the electric and gas is staying the same, but we did raise it just a little bit overall. So if you took all the electric and gas from last year and all the electric and gas from this year, it's going to increase, but some of them are based on usage. So the budget's got adjusted from year to year. We're trying to even it out.
Okay.
So we anticipate that will go up next year.
And then is there like I know there was like the announcement, I think during the budget address that there would be the conversion to LED lighting in City Hall. Does that play into? And maybe that's like down the road and shouldn't be budgeted for upfront.
Yeah, I think that's still too far down the road. The City Hall switch to LED will be part of something we're working on with Siemens, like a bigger cost savings. So they looked at all the city-owned facilities, City Hall, the different garages, the senior center, and tried to come up with like a energy efficient cost savings plan. But I think that is probably too far down the line for at least us to be able to budget for it in this budget.
Thank you.
Again, just a general question. The cleaning of the police department isn't done by the regular City Hall staff. It's a special thing
That's correct.
by an outside firm
Correct.
because
So we lost some of that staff due to attrition. And to keep up with it, the police decided they would rather have outside do it. It's cheaper and it's just the way it's been done since I've been here.
I have a question on page 40. Court improvements. I see this year we've spent a little over 12,000. 2023, we spent $5,300. We're budgeting for 45,000. We also had an increase in the adjusted budget of 10,000. You just explain that for me. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
oh, I'll tackle that one. The courts pay us back.
That's correct.
They ask, we do it, they pay us back.
Yeah, there's a revenue line in the general fund budget called state aid court facilities. And that it'll match that $45,000 number.
Um, um, so speaking of things fluctuating up and down like that, the shared maintenance line, which comes just after the courts line, how do we determine what the tripartite government complex needs and gets every year? And why does it get to be part of your budget instead of maybe just a general line?
Could you say that a little?
I'm sorry, the shared expenses for the tripartite government complex. How that kind of gets determined, who decides what's getting done, which year, who's paying for it, and
So there's supposed to be a meeting about it and we all go over things that are in the complex that need done, what doesn't need done, what's the most important, what's the least important. We haven't had that meeting yet this year. I don't believe we ever had one last year, to be utterly honest with you. And it's something that we've just came to notice and I'm working on getting done.
so the the proposed budget's kind of just a shot in the dark at this point.
It's going to be based on the past and just adjusting for inflation.
Okay. So, you talked about a lot of work you put into some of the vehicle fleet in the last year or two. But we still see a little bit of an increase in vehicle parts. Page 41.
So we have put a lot of money in certain vehicles. There's some that we have not put money into yet this year. The cost of vehicle parts is out of control right now. Whether it's Napa or anywhere else, just anyone who takes to get their car repaired right now, it's crazy. And we're just adjusting for that within the parts for that.
Like jumping down a couple lines, the gas line, you seem to be pretty comfortably under the budget for this year. So it went up in you adjusted up already for 2024, but you seem to be coming back in, I think, under that number, and you're back to the original 2024 ask. Are we tracking that through fluctuations in price or just
the system that tracked the fuel at the garage or at the what do you call that place? The central garage. It just came online this April. For the last year and a half from 2022 forward, we were estimating it based on prior usage, and that prior usage was from during COVID.
Oh,
so we took usage from that year, which is what we had, and did an estimate based on percentages for each department. And whenever we got a bill, we would parse it out to those departments. That was the best we could do until we got that the fuel system up and running. And it started this April. So we'll have 9 months we've had 6 months of good data. So going forward, this is going to be a little bit more accurate per department. So.
okay. Okay. Let's see.
I have a question on the overtime on page 41. We're asking for $1,000 increase. We haven't even spent $500 this year, and last year was $138. Just curious what's driving that up.
So this year, it's not winter time yet. The majority of their overtime comes once the snow hits. Last year was an extremely mild winter. I'm not banking on that again.
It was $138 a year before too, though.
This is also, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is also the budget where the commissioner is on funding that general mechanic position. So I believe we added in that extra $1,000 buffer, given that they'll be short a general mechanic in case the other guys need to fill in. Am I right on that? Are we on funding there? Okay.
Which is what was previously stated. I was acknowledging that matches what you previously stated.
Okay. Let's see, central signals. A lot of pages to get through. Okay.
You've gone without a mechanic for 2 years?
Yes.
Yeah, before we move past the vehicle parts line, I'd like to make a motion to decrease A 1640.5 54,110 by $10,000. This is on page 41.
41. All right, so let's confirm, A 1640.541.10.
Yep, that's vehicle
Paper
parts.
parts, you want to motion to decrease by $10,000 to $240,000?
Yep.
Motion is made by Councilman Hotchkiss. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. Oh, sorry.
So, yeah, they stated the increase was because they're concerned about the increase in parts overall.
Yeah.
So the statement, I guess I'm interested in the thought process for cutting.
I mean, this past year, they came in at 240,000 and having invested a lot in their vehicles, I would anticipate that there's less need for them to purchase new vehicle parts. I think that they could manage with $10,000 less. That's my thinking.
Thank you.
Yeah, so coming from 2023 to 2024, there was a almost $70,000 or $60,000 cushion. And it looks like going to be on track for maybe slightly over 200 this year, maybe a little bit more given more things break in the winter. So
Yeah.
I still think they maybe have a $20,000 or $30,000 cushion, even decreasing 10,000. And again, I just think we're being slightly more conservative in an estimate maybe than they were being, but I think that's not a major ask. That's my, anyway. Any other discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I mean, if we end up with a snowstorm like we did a few years ago of 40 some inches, you could end up breaking a lot of plows, a lot of springs, a lot of tie rods, wheel axles, you name it. So I mean, them having a higher budget towards that, because we did have a mild winter pretty much the last 2 years, we've been lucky. But if we get a really bad winter, especially with one GPS, so we know where the trucks are, if they're broke down because we don't have the parts and stuff readily available, that's going to be an issue.
Okay.
I guess going back to our discussion on training the other day, just because something's in contingency doesn't mean we couldn't move it back, right?
Yeah.
If
Correct.
needed at a later date.
I don't think 10,000 is that much.
Any other discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton,
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Nay.
Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 5-1.
Okay. Oh. no. Okay, moving to maybe page 44. You have a traffic sign maintainer vacancy. Is that something that how long has that been hanging around? Is it something that's you've been having trouble hiring for, or is it attrition or?
That's currently going to be filled in the next, I think, 3 weeks.
Okay, being filled.
Can you elaborate on what the position does since we're on it?
So a traffic sign maintainer is someone who maintains the traffic signs, no parking, do not enter, all the signs that get graffitied all the time that we talk about. They're the guys that clean the graffiti off of the signs. If it's hit by a car, they're the guys who come replace the pole, change all that out.
So along the lines of a lot of our emails about various signs that aren't reflective anymore or bent or things like that.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
There's a retention stipend in this department. Is that so it seems like some departments have had them for 2 years and some have disappeared this year, but this is all still, it's a Teamsters blue collar that's getting these. And is there a reason why it seems inconsistent?
It's in their contract and it's based on the personnel that are in those lines.
Okay. Oh, just to bring this up for the public, when we were on our walking audit the other day, we brought up traffic paint, which is costing $34,000, but I guess we're getting better paint now.
Yes, I'm getting the better quality traffic paint now, and I'm hoping that should be right about where I should be with that cost wise.
Right. And
And
this
the-
will help to get some more longevity out of it too. Yeah.
It should be more reflective, last a little bit longer, and look a little bit nicer.
Hopefully be less slippery. That was the other one.
How many vacancies do you have across to the whole department?
I have the one mechanic and there's going to be a labor position available. And that's it for vacancies aside from, I believe I have one person that is out on leave and one person that is injured.
And the commissioner.
And commissioner.
So what happens with the commissioner's full salary if you're in a different role? I know you get the the salary adjustment, but then there's around $90,000 or 80,000.
Yep, I get the adjustment for commissioner. A percentage of that goes to my deputy commissioner because he's also putting in more hours helping me out. And my regular pay is just, Chuck, you might be better off explaining that than I am.
Yeah, we don't have you don't have like a different street supervisor, right?
My official title is street maintenance supervisor, or not street maintenance supervisor. I'm the superintendent of city streets.
Right?
Yeah. That's what,
And I'm acting commissioner. I'm doing both jobs right now.
yeah, so I don't know where that money goes. Because you've been doing this for over a year, right?
Yes.
But we need to budget for it in case he does get promoted into that position. Because if it's not there, he can't get promoted.
Okay, yeah, and I know there was questions about the salary pool that I don't think we ever got an answer about, and I don't know how that conversation plays into the vacant commissioner.
I mean, that would be the commissioner's salary if he got promoted. I don't know if you'd want to cut the commissioner's salary.
I'm not intending to. I'm just like wondering where the vacancies, the money for the vacancies go, where it lives. But
He should have it. Been there for over a year acting. They should make him the commissioner. That's another acting job.
So, I mean, basically all the positions are filled except for the commissioner, but he's occupying the commissioner's position with that difference in salary.
So then what happens when he, like, if he gets that position, what happens to, then there'll be an open position where he's at?
There'll be an open superintendent of city streets. And then we'll have the salary to hire somebody, hopefully.
Maybe a ticket.
In theory, to answer your question a little bit more directly, if someone leaves and they need to get a payout, and we know it's been vacant for 5 months so far, part of that extra will go to pay other things when people leave. Those are like the budget adjustments that come down here. That could be an example of one.
All right. Any other questions?
I guess,
Sorry.
sorry.
No,
So
go ahead.
at the end of the year, the personnel services line should be $80,000, about $80,000 under what was budgeted in 2024. Yeah, about that.
Unless it goes somewhere.
I
don't-
think what,
My-
I
my-
think what Councilman Hodge is getting at is, so you have two people doing the job of three people. So some of the commissioner's salary is going to you and some is going to Fran, right? Of the commissioner's salary, is all of that being split between you two, or half of it, or three quarters of it, or?
So, yeah, so basically, at the end of the year, if nobody hired a.
Let's say
commission-
went through all of 2025.
Right. The only money that would be available is his salary at 57. At the 57, 120.
If we continued as we are.
Yes.
Okay. Does that get to what you were asking?
Yes, but, and then what are you gonna do with that money, I guess?
Well, like Rachel said, we could use it for payouts because.
Does it go to the
Retire.
vacancy fund?
Or we'd hold it there like with other vacancies so that it can be filled.
Okay,
All right,
thank you. We can move past that point.
all right. Any other questions sort of in this first chunk, 37 to 46?
This-
Okay.
The-
No?
Do these
Oh,
personnel? Because there's things like laborers and such, and I'm not exactly sure their exact roles. Does this include the refuse workers, or is this separate from that?
On page 44, this is just the signals and combined shops. So this is gonna be your side maintainers, your painters, and a couple of laborers in that shop.
So we haven't started discussing anything related to refuse.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so we are skipping central services, correct? That's going to go with purchasing, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
Correct. So we're going to skip that and we're going to go, let's look at chunk starting on page 78, 79, 80. Let's open those pages. So these are the core of the street maintenance, and these folks also do plowing,
Yes.
which is, I'm guessing, where the overtime comes from, right?
Yes.
Or not? Yeah.
Now, when you say plowing, everybody plows.
Everyone plows.
Everybody.
So is there one line for like plowing overtime, or it just comes bit by bit from all the different shops and
So
different
the plowing overtime is in the snow removal.
snow removal line,
and
80? Okay. So the top line stone removal, the personnel services, that's basically the overtime budget for everyone that gets called into plow.
Correct.
Okay.
Looks like your, the equipment line on page 78 is kind of, seems like it fluctuates quite a bit. What equipment is that? Equipment is super big, but what do you usually use that line for?
So equipment in the streets department is gonna be if my Bobcat needs a new milling head. If my Bobcat milling head needs a new drum. New bucket for the backhoe, new bucket, special grabber buckets like we have on the Bobcat now. I'm looking to get a thumb bucket for my backhoe to help pick stuff up over fences and things like that.
So under the construction materials line, we know materials are up. But you've only spent a little under 16,000 this year. Do you buy most of the stuff later in the year or in in big lots or how does that, as far as
Which,
cold?
I'm
Hold on,
sorry, I just can't
sorry.
hear you. Which line are you talking about?
Construction materials on page 78. It's A 5110 54130. Paving, fabric, and related items, cold patch.
Yep. So that was that ARPA line that I was talking about earlier. We started out with that. We're going through that now and we're starting to get into this line. And this increase is just to make it so we have enough to get through the whole year next year on this line instead of using that.
Instead of
Each
using,
line.
okay, I heard you talking about that and that was. All right, so this was, it's kind of an ARPA. Filling back in after ARPA. That's good.
Speaking of ARPA lines, on your personal services, I'm assuming that was an ARPA line, where you have your retention stipend. There's been a few other spots that I've seen in the budget where the ARPA line is zeroed out for the 2025 budget. Is there, you just still have that money laying around, or is it?
I believe, Chuck, we're on the last rounds of those payouts.
The stipend for the Teamsters goes through 2026. But we're gonna, I think. We're using for next year.
That's
And we're
set
using,
by,
and we're using that for the stipends for next year.
that's set by the contract, is that
Yeah,
right?
it's set by the contract. Mhm.
Let's see. All right, next page on 79, the crack filling and sealing. That's a standard contract we've had with. Oh, is that the state? No. Is that state or county? Office of General Services? Is that who's?
So the professional services, we typically do crack seal. I'll bid that out.
All right, so this goes out to bid.
Yep.
Has it been explored, doing that in-house? And would it be cheaper?
We honestly, we don't have enough guys to be able to do it. By the time we would get to it, it'd be too late in the year. We're trying to concentrate on mill and pave and get as far ahead on that as we can. If we start cutting guys off to do that, it's just not possible with the manpower we have.
Next line is the equipment lease and rental for a roller. Didn't we just have discussion of buying a roller? Or is this the roller we're talking about and we lease it?
So the roller, we actually have the roller now, and we're not going to need to lease the roller anymore.
Is there a but there?
No, there's
No.
no but.
So we don't need this $10,000 anymore?
I mean, we still need to be able to rent or lease equipment as I need it, whether a Bobcat goes down and I can't get it repaired in a timely manner.
That's for when, yeah, that's for when the other equipment breaks down, Councilman. Whether it's like mill and pave, or is it, I don't know if you would use that for plowing or snow removal too, but
It could be used for snow removal, plowing. If we had tractors down this year, I tried to rent a tractor, but there wasn't enough money in the line to even try and do it.
You could have come back. So even though that roller is not going to be a monthly rental, you want to leave that money there for other,
Just in case.
just in case.
Yes.
It seems, yeah, going back further with the rental and lease agreements, like in 2022 and 2023, they had $0 in those lines. So I don't know if it was common for the department to have a just in case rental. But I could see it's like if you were planning on doing the roller and you needed the roller for mill and pave activities, it makes sense, but it doesn't seem like it was consistent with previous years to just have a budget for rental items.
We've gone without and done a lot of things by hand that we probably shouldn't have in the past. And I'm trying not to do that moving forward.
So the our our purchasing of road salt is by contract with the state. They go out and buy it, or we buy it from them, or how does that work?
Road salt is off a state contract.
A contract they have or a contract we have with them, or that's what I'm trying to,
It's just a general state contract. New York State has it. Everyone gets the same pricing.
okay.
You use the vendor that they tell you to, which is different for the first time this year.
So this year is in, you were using them in like January, February, or you're going to be using them in,
Right now, our salt bin is stuffed. We're completely full. We don't need salt right now. I'm hoping it stays that way for a few months, but as I need it, I just order it as I need it. So snowstorm comes, we use 500 ton of salt. When the snowstorm is over, I see how much we went through 500 ton. I need to order another 500 to bring us back to capacity. We're at 500. Now, sometimes it comes quick, other times it takes a little while to get here. That's why I try to keep it at certain levels. So you're
what's
never
our,
completely out.
what's our holding capacity for salt?
Oh, I think 200 tons.
200 tons?
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on kind of road maintenance and snow removal?
I guess I have a question for Chuck, about the philosophy of how the budget's developed, right? Like padding versus having that, trying to keep a tight amount around, to keep people to spend to a budget, and then having bandwidth for dealing with emergencies as they come up, rather than trying to write in emergency money to every department.
Right, good question. Difficult one for my first year doing the budget. But no, when we had the department meetings, we asked everybody what was their spend, and we tried to trim them down to what they actually needed. Now, if there's any fat in the budget, I don't think so, not this year. But I kind of left it up to the department heads because they were, since me being new, they know their budgets pretty well. I mean, it's probably the best I can tell you.
I think the common theme with having the padding would refer to emergencies and weather. Like for office supplies, we're cutting them because we're going to say, you don't need any more than this in pens and paper. So the lines, there are certain lines that by nature, yeah, you don't need to spend any more than this. But the ones that are related to weather and emergencies, those ones are the ones that might have a little bit extra.
It's just helpful to know the thinking behind it.
This came up at our joint sewage treatment plant, but they had a rental line also, and it was brought up, how often do they use like shared service agreements with other municipalities or the county to cover, or has that been explored, and like how often do we try to leverage that to reduce spending?
So right now, I am short a bucket truck for my electricians. I got with Johnson City and they were friendly enough to loan me the bucket truck whenever we need it. We had it all through LUMA at no cost to us, but when they need something, obviously I try to help them. We do look to our neighbors to try and help each other out because we're all trying to save as much money as we can anywhere we can. The rental of a bucket truck is $5,000 a month.
So the county has a shared equipment pool that many municipalities participate in, but we do not. Is there a history behind that or a reasoning?
I don't know the history and I don't know the reasoning.
I know the one that got mentioned to me was that they have a
Graffiti.
graffiti removal truck and machine that they have purchased that seems like it would come in handy in the city of Binghamton.
It absolutely would.
Deputy Mayor, do you have any
No, I'm not familiar with that. I don't know if, like I'm thinking in that case, we have the two positions that are deal with that entirely and then the replacing of signage. So I don't know if just compared to the other municipalities, the city sees more, more work needs to be done. So we couldn't afford to share certain things, but that's just a guess. I'm not familiar with the specifics on that.
okay. It's snow removal. Yeah, we're there. Do you have comments on page 80? Okay. Let's see. Next would be opening page 102 sanitation. Okay, Council President Matavetsky, I think this is where you want it.
Yeah, well, I guess one of my high level questions is about the whole people not putting their trash bags into the containers. I'm curious how that would impact your employees with pickup times and like, because obviously we have a rule that all refuse is supposed to be in closed watertight containers. And we also know that almost no one in the city actually does that. So I assume that there's some kind of reason why we don't enforce that rule. And I just was kind of curious how that fits in and what the costs would be associated with enforcing versus not enforcing.
To enforce that would be very, very, very difficult. Imagine driving down the street, even if we put out an announcement and said it's coming and said it's coming, imagine driving down the street and us tagging every blue bag that's not in a container. We'd never get through a day. The garbage would sit there, we would tag it. We have problems now with it out not being in blue bags, tagging it and getting it taken care of in a timely manner. If we start doing it with the cans too, it would be very, very difficult to keep up with. If we could do it at all.
Maybe, I was gonna just jump in, maybe this is, I don't know how logical this is, but even if we're not ticketing, maybe just like a campaign on kind of like telling people to put it in the trash can.
I'm 100% for putting garbage in garbage cans.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I like it. I campaign it myself as much as I can.
But you also have people struggling to buy blue bags that if they don't own garbage cans that would be on their porch, you're gonna ask them to add on to another cost in this time of inflation.
That's true. That's true. I was just thinking about ways of trying to contain the garbage, but I understand that that's.
Got to figure out how to get rid of the blue bags for blue garbage container.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I like that. Yeah, but I understand. Yeah, just trying to contain the garbage because a lot of people complain about that. It also brings animals and different types of things if it's not, in a container. So then it makes more garbage. And so, yeah, but I understand that. Maybe we could, I don't know if we could give people cans.
I guess the budget related point is, from your perspective, if everyone put their garbage in their blue bag inside a closed container per our city charter, that it would not cost the city more money for the pickup? Because that was kind of,
If everybody put a blue City of Binghamton garbage bag into a liquid tight garbage can with a lid, we would still get the garbage picked up every day.
Thank you.
Who's liable if my can blows down the street, my neighbor steals it?
You are.
You're it.
Okay, I had a discussion earlier with comptroller today on how, if you look back on page 102, if you look at the, this page was essentially created last year. There's no 2023 budget for these items for sanitation because these expenses were part of the refuse fund. Last year, it was decided to separate the garbage collection, which is this portion, and the garbage disposal, getting it from the transfer station up to the dump, getting rid of it, and accounting for the purchasing and sale of blue bags. It sort of makes sense and it sort of doesn't make sense, I think. I think the old way gave us a better one area of the budget picture of what does it actually cost to get rid of trash in the city of Binghamton versus where that money is coming from. How much is actually, how much of that, what portion of that is blue bags and what portion of it has to be coming from the general fund. We've kind of separated it. In fact, we're going to be talking about it on 2 different days now because the comptroller is going to handle it. I don't know if anyone wants to dig into that further or talk about it more or what. 102 sanitation versus the refuse fund. So part of the reasoning in breaking these apart was that sometimes the sanitation folks do stuff that's not strictly sanitation or not strictly garbage removal, I think. What percentage of this is their core job, would you say? Just trying to develop a picture of what trash disposal actually costs the city.
So if it's snowing,
right,
everybody's on plow patrol. That is our main concern. Safe streets for everyone to drive and walk on. That's our number one concern. If we can get out a garbage truck and try and get ahead of it, we do that. But safety is our main concern of our streets first. So everyone's on a plow truck. If there's a large event, like let's say there's a flood, like we were talking about, obviously we're going to do garbage. And when they're done with that, they're going to move right into whatever they can do to help clean up that problem. Their day-to-day job is sanitation, but that doesn't mean that's the only thing you are going to do. And that could change on a day-to-day basis, depending on the needs of the department.
Okay. Looking at how things are being budgeted last year and now this year versus the old way. I mean, and Chuck, if you want to chime in, I mean, which do you think is a more accurate way to look at sanitation costs in the city? Like, I truly am not totally understanding why we did this.
I don't know. I would rather have this discussion during the refuse fund discussion.
Okay.
At the end.
All right. But we'll have already closed these pages by then, but.
Right, we can still discuss it.
Okay, we will still discuss it. All right.
The only other comment I would make is that if you wanted to change this going forward, that's kind of whatever, but if you wanted to sort of merge them as part of this budget, that would be a lot of motions and amendments.
That's why I wasn't gonna be.
All right, just checking.
Or if I was going to do something like that, it was going to be suggesting that they go and resubmit these pages rather than making us do it. But anyway, that's a discussion I would like to continue to have. All right, sanitation. Do you want to open capital improvements now, 224? All right, so we have several public works items. All right. Commissioner, what are you getting rid of this year for $20,000?
We're getting rid of a few trucks and an old transfer station walking trailer. Random stuff, old parts that we don't have trucks for, things like that are lying around the garage, just taking up space.
All right. But like your, the front end loader that's rusted through is just being scrapped, I'm assuming.
We're still using it. right
Well,
now.
until you get your new one.
That will actually try and trade in.
Really? They'll take a trade in on that.
I'm gonna try.
Cool. Nice. All right.
I do my best to save every penny.
And then, as we learn, the other A lines are kind of funds that gradually build up. Are we contributing sufficiently to them, or how's the balance on those? I'm talking about street lighting improvements and guardrails.
The guardrails, I'm having a very hard time getting them to come and do any work for me. I have a couple, that's why those lines are kind of where they are now. I'm having a problem getting a contractor to actually call me back. I actually have a few quotes right now, and I'm hoping to hear back in the next week or so. If not, I'm gonna have to start making calls.
Is it because the projects are small or too big, or where just everyone's busy?
I wish I had an answer for you, but everybody's all gun ho to come and see you, and then crickets when it's time to call you back.
Then we get down to the expenditures here, the front end loader.
Hang on.
That actually moves all the salt, right? I'm sorry.
As far as like streetlight improvements, I know I get like inquiries about different lights that are out. Is that fund sufficient for keeping up with just lights going out? Is that prohibiting you from doing the work, or is it just like there's a lot to keep up with?
There's just
And
a
labor.
lot to keep up
Okay.
with. And like I said, without a bucket truck, and we're using a very large bucket truck to try and do this, I'm borrowing a bucket truck. I'm doing the best I can to spread it around and get it all done in a timely manner.
But the capital line is not the problem.
No,
Thanks.
Do you know when you're getting your bucket truck back?
it is currently supposed to be built this year. It's been on back order. I believe this is year number 2.
Very frustrating. All right, so the front end loader that we're gonna bond for is that's the one that moves all the salt that's currently resting, right?
That's correct.
Transfer trailer. I don't know why I'm explaining these. The transfer trailer is what actually does the hauling from the transfer station up to the landfill, so the dump trucks don't, or the garbage trucks don't have to do it.
That's correct.
And it's
So-
also falling apart.
It is out of service, completely unusable, and
So what are we
will
doing
not
right
pass
now?
inspection. We have 2. One completely unusable. The one that we're using right now is, I want to say 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
17 years old, and it's holding on for now. It's still working. We're kind of babying it, but we're really in need of a new transfer station trailer.
So is this something where, all right. Are you trying to eventually get back to two?
I'd like to have two, yes.
So we will look for one next year, probably two in the budget.
What I would like to try to do is get the new one and then see if I can do a little more rehab on the one we have now. Right now, I can't rehab it because we use it every single day and it can't be down for enough time to even get it looked at.
Okay.
Does that create like a bottleneck for the transfer of? So I'm picturing like you could have one that's filling and then one that's going, but now you just have one that's
Correct.
so you
Currently, at the end of the day, I'll leave garbage trucks full because I'm not allowed to have any garbage left on the floor at night. So I'll have to leave them in the garbage trucks. We'll have to dump in the morning. So we can rack it while the truck's going. And then when it comes back, it's off and we just rotate it that way. If we have two, I can have everything done, cleaned up, ready to go in way more efficient manner.
Right.
And right now, if one goes down, it's a problem.
is there any like obvious well, yeah, of course, that's another huge issue. Are there any like obvious labor or like fuel savings that you could see coming from having the second
Absolutely.
transfer trailer?
Instead of running 3 garbage trucks to landfill twice a day, we're running 2 loads in the tractor trailer.
So it pays for itself essentially.
Yes.
Plus guys in the garbage trucks, right? You're saving on their time too, right? All right. Now we come to trucks. We've got one 10-wheel dump truck with a plow and just a straight up snow plow truck.
Correct.
Now, this sounds like the sort of thing that might have lead time.
We're looking at 2 years on both of these trucks. The 10-wheel dump truck is a little more versatile than just a regular dump truck. The 10-wheel dump truck, I'm looking to get something that does not have a slip-in salt liner. So it can be used as a dump truck in the winter when we're trying to do snow removal or ice removal or something like that. It just has a small box on the back, a couple of hoses, comes off, 4 bolts. It can be used for after the storm is over to move stuff around. When we're done, you plug that right back on, it's ready to go again. Where the other truck, it's in the summertime, it's a dump truck. In the wintertime, it's a plow and salt truck, and that's the only function it can be.
Is the 10-wheel dump truck, is that the one with the extra wheels that come down when you need them or not? Is that
This is only a double axle. You're thinking of a triaxle.
okay. Thanks. Not my area. All right. So what's the so considering some of these trucks are 2 years out, what's your current fleet looking like replacement wise going forward? Do we have a kind of schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little further behind than I would like to be. Like I said, the 10-wheel dump truck is replacing a truck that's out of service. I didn't expect that truck to go out of service. So I'm thinking 2 a year for the next 5 years should get us where we need to be.
So how severely short is not having a truck leaving you or potentially going to leave you this winter?
It's not optimal. I think we'll be okay. I have lots of smaller trucks to make up the difference, but when I use the smaller truck, it's a lot of back and forth to re-up the salt every time, where a regular size truck holds about 6 tons of salt, where the smaller CVs are 3. It's half the amount. So it's just more back and forth, back and forth. That's less time with, the plow down in the area that you're supposed to be because your travel time.
Any other questions on capital items? Anybody? No? All right, let's take a look at the fee schedule. Let's open pages 229 and 230. So if memory serves, we added a bunch of fees in this year for collection of assorted stuff. More
Early in the year, yeah.
more detailed list of things that you folks collect and want to charge for.
Yes,
So that's, they're in here now, I think,
correct.
and they're not changing because we just did them.
Nope.
Oh, price TV sets free, that, those are the ones we did. Okay. Okay. So what's changing here? Oh, garbage bags are the big change. So we're looking at a 29-cent increase for large bags and a 19-cent increase for medium bags. Who wants to tackle that? You or the comptroller or the deputy mayor?
And that goes back to
Who
the,
wants to take this bullet for the city?
that goes back to the refuse centers that we're gonna talk about later.
Okay, so we will not deal with,
But we can talk about the administrative fee, I
okay,
think.
all right. So when we vote on capital, I'm sorry, when we vote on fee schedule tonight, it will not include the garbage bags. All right, so you want to look at administrative fee, the 95 to 125. So what exactly is that? And
So the administration fee is just what we're charging to bill out for some of these violations.
so if a sanitation employee is called out to do something,
Mhm.
you're gonna charge $125 plus whatever that hourly is in the rate schedule?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the fee for his office staff to actually take the time to put the pictures together, the billing and mail them out.
Everything's still done by paper, right? Is everything done by paper? I remember when I know with parks, when I visited and I wanted to see how like stuff worked with they got like physical paper. Is it done by paper or is this electronic?
It's 99% electronic. We do it by paper just because I like to see paper sometimes, but it's all electronic.
How many calls like this a week do you handle?
You can see that on the website every day. All our violations are posted on the website. It goes anywhere. Sometimes there's 1, sometimes there's 40, just depends.
Okay,
I want to know why the small garbage bags aren't having an increase on the medium and large bags are.
Chuck question at our next.
Sorry.
I missed the question.
The small garbage bags aren't having an increase and the other two are.
So
Yeah,
I
we
think
don't
we're gonna
sell a
save
lot
that
of.
For the
Oh.
refuse fund day, so just do it all at once.
Okay.
We can make a note though. That you have questions.
I feel like they made 1 million of them years ago and they just keep selling them to whoever shows up at City Hall. Okay. All right, so I think we've covered all your pages and they're all open. Does anyone have any other questions or amendments? I have a couple things, I think. All right. I am going to be hopeful of a somewhat warm winter and look to move a little funding to contingency in hopes that we won't need some of this padding. So I motion to amend A 1640.54110 vehicle parts from
Which page are you on?
$250 to $240,000.
Which page you want?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 41.
Thank you.
I'd like to amend line A 1640.54110 vehicle parts from $250 to $240,000.
We already did that.
That one. Sorry, I even wrote that one. Next one, sorry. Still optimistic. I would like to go to snow removal on page 80.
What page?
80. Nate and I just had the exact same thought. That's. I'd like to amend on page 80, snow removal, personnel services, line A 5142.51000 and take it from $110,000 to $100,000, a $10,000 reduction.
I'll
Second.
second.
Motion by me, seconded by Councilwoman Middleton. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton,
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Nay.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 5-1.
And eternal optimist that I am, I would like to amend budget line A 5142.54141 salt, sand, and other from $344,100 to $340,000, a reduction of $4,100.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Councilman Hotchkiss. Is there any discussion on the motion? No discussion. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember
Aye.
Middleton, Council President Matavetsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Nay.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 5-1.
Any other questions or amendments to any of the open pages? Is there a motion?
We'll make the motion to close pages 37, 38 through 48.
Nope, through 46.
To,
We skipped central service.
to 46. Oh, excuse me. I'd like to make a motion to close pages 37 to 46
As amended.
as amended.
Second.
Okay, we're doing chunks. All right. So this is the first chunk. Councilman Hotchkiss motion to close pages 37 through 46 as amended. And the motion was seconded by Councilman Costi. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Oh. Would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Porter is absent.
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton, Council President Matavetsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon is absent. Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 5-0.
And is there a further motion?
Motion to move pages 78 through 80, 102 as amended, and the Public Works pages on page 224.
Motion by Michael Costi. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Middleton. Any discussion on the motion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Member Porter is absent. Councilmember
Aye.
Middleton, Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon is absent. Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 5-0.
And one more motion. Okay, I'll do it. I'd like to motion to pass the fee schedule on pages 229 and 230,
Accept the,
accepting the lines for large and medium garbage bags. And yes, refuse in general minus large and medium garbage bags. And small,
and small.
yes. So pass the entire refuse fee schedule, except large, medium, and small garbage bags.
I'll second.
Motion by me, seconded by Councilwoman Middleton. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton. Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon is absent. Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 5-0.
Okay. We did it. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
I'd
Thank
like
you.
to make a motion for a 5 or 10-minute recess.
5-minute necessity break. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See you in 5. Okay, I'd like to call us back to order and bring down the Director of Code Enforcement, Chris Schleider, to talk about his piece of the budget. Welcome.
evening.
Thank you. All
I'll
right.
Have you draw your attention to pages 104 and 105, which is the better part of the code budget.
All right, so we're going to open pages 74, 104, 105, and then the fee schedule on 230. So we'll start with 104, I guess.
Yes, 104, personnel services. Largest component of the budget, no change. At the bottom of the page, we do have a line for overtime. That's seldom, if ever, used, so we've reduced it from 500 to 300, reducing it by $200. Still keeping it there, a small amount for emergencies. We go over to page 105. A few line items here, office supplies. No change. Uniforms. No change. Actually, there's minor increase. We rounded that out from 3180 to 3,200, so increase $18.20. Professional services, the code enforcement office is going to be adding $20,000 to cover the cost of process service for court appearance tickets as required by New York State. It's formally done by a different department. We're taking over the administrating tasks for that. So we're going to need a line to pay for those purchase orders.
Was it previously legal?
Hmm?
Was it previously legal?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if anybody really had a strict budget for process server. In any case, we're being tasked with making sure that that gets done. So we're looking for a budget line to help us make sure we pay those invoices. Moving down to travel and training, that's flat, no change. And last item on page 105, dues and memberships. We're reducing that by $665. There's a couple of associations that were based around electrical inspections and organizations that our electrical inspector belonged to. Since we no longer have an electrical inspector position, we're vacating a lot of those memberships, reducing that by $665 a year. Any questions about those items?
I'm curious why overtime isn't being used. Given it seems like there's
given
a
the-
lot to do and
No, there is
limited staff.
overtime. No, there's overtime every year. But given the choice of earning additional time off or taking the additional pay, the employees pretty consistently elect to have the additional time off, especially new hires who have not accrued as many days off as some of the more seasoned.
Just a budget line question that we previously had this other personnel services line that's everything's moved up into one. Why was the split and why'd we merge them?
The one that ends with F0015 was ARPA funded.
That's all ARPA. So were these positions existed before ARPA?
Yep.
And we moved them to ARPA and now we're moving them back.
Yep.
So there hasn't been a head count change since.
No, at all. Reduction, if anything.
So speaking of reduction in staffing, so in taking on this, the preparation and sending out of notices of violation of the process of the portion, getting up to the point of, is that up to the point of an appearance ticket then?
That's what that is. A process server serves a summons to appear in court. Has to be personally served.
And how much more work is this for the individual code officers, or is it somebody inside administratively doing it, or?
No, we have to hire outside to do that. This is nationwide.
No, but is there more work prepping that stuff internally now?
There's always more work. The legal system gets more complex every year. Is it all specifically related to process service? It's discovery. It's, just refining some of the laws and different interpretations result in different, some changes to our procedures and processes. This one in particular, that's a very, costly addition to the way that we're doing things, was actually formerly done by the court system. They would mail people summonses to appear in court. Then it was discovered that that was unlawful. And the court was not going to hire a process server, so that fell on the city to do that. And this is including people who live in Queens and New Jersey and Las Vegas and Phoenix, and we need to serve them wherever they are.
Maybe that should be under legal, though.
6 of one, half dozen of the other. I mean, whoever gets it done. It is a legal service, but that's, whether our administrative assistant actually sends the PO down and gets it paid for, or corporation counsels does, is quite, doesn't get cheaper, doesn't change the bottom line, doesn't change the cost.
I had some questions if you're done, Robert.
I'm done.
Okay. It says that we don't have an electrical inspector at all,
Right.
or
Yeah.
a building inspector?
No, we have 2 building inspectors.
Okay, moved, okay.
Yeah.
And why is that?
We had for a long time, we didn't have an electrical inspector. There was one. That service was provided for free by the New York State Board of Fire Underwriters. It's a non-for-profit organization that provided the city of Binghamton with electrical inspections. That foundation went bankrupt. That person was no longer able to provide the services for us, so the city hired a master electrician to be the electrical inspector. That went on for a few years, maybe 8 to 10 years. And then the last electrical inspector that we had resigned for better pay. And we posted his position and didn't get any applications. And we added a lot of money to that position to make it more attractive. And we didn't get any applications. And we advertised on Indeed and the city website. And we don't have anybody who's interested in filling that role. They can't be filled. It's like Josh's mechanics.
So just to clarify though, that electrical inspections still happen. It's just whoever needs an inspection needs to go find an outside inspector, correct?
Right. Third, and that's similar in a lot of townships, actually. It's not unique to Binghamton. It's probably the more common way of doing business for most municipalities. They have the homeowner or the developer hire their own third-party electrical inspection.
I had another question. And the training and travel, the travel and training line, how come how come it's so underspent?
When I took the position in 2019, that those funds were completely depleted by March of 2019. And that was a tough year. There were some inspectors who were possibly not going to receive their in-service training and lose their accreditation with New York State. And it historically depleted every year. COVID came around in 2020 and we couldn't do in-service training in a live environment. We could no longer have these conventions at hotels or at the fire academy, and everything had to be done online. So the basic training for the new hires and the continuing education for the existing inspectors was web-based only. And now they are, and I've advocated every year to leave that in place because I knew that wasn't going to be long lasting. There's no way that we could, that New York State could continue to offer all these classes for free when they have to pay the instructors, who provide the lessons and the classes for everyone. And we're seeing that.
And you feel like you're gonna use it this year, the coming?
It's the amount of classes available has gone. In 2022, there was 24 hours available in the fall. In 2023, there was 18 hours available in the fall, and this year there's 6. We're required to get 24 hours of in-service training every year. And in the last 3 years, it's gone from 24 to 18 to 6 of the free online classes. With that trend, I would say next year there will be 0 hours of free online classes, and we're all going to be going back to, the Holiday Inn in Oneonta or the Tioga Downs Convention Center, trying to get the classes there. So I'd like to leave that in place because I am very confident that will be depleted before the end of the year next year. This is probably the last year where we'll have
And that,
left over.
is that also to the lineup professional services?
Process services.
We spoke about that. So, sorry. I'm listening. But time for bed.
Since the page is also open, anything anyone wants to say about the examining boards or anything, they do their thing?
It's on page
74.
74.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's strictly, I think it's the stipends for the members is all that's there, right?
Yeah, that's for board member services. So both the Board of Electrical Examiners and the plumbing board meet
So
once a month. Those volunteers.
does your office then supply any whatever office services they might need or anything, or?
Do we provide anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do they ever need copies and stuff? I don't know what, just a support for them. That's all I'm asking. Are they?
No, I don't think do we used to mean paper products office?
I mean, do they ever mail anything out? Do they ever receive anything? I don't know. Somebody must handle stuff.
Yeah, people submit applications all the time to become electricians or plumbers.
So that's handled out of your.
Yeah,
office,
we process. There's some administrative tasks involved for sure, but that's just part of the job for our administrative assistant, that there's no additional compensation for doing that. These are for the board members who show up every month.
Yep. No, it's just okay. Then the final things, let's see, is the fee schedule on page 230.
Yeah. We currently have a maximum building permit fee for commercial building permits of $25,000. I'm proposing to increase that to $50,000 based on the increased cost of providing the services. It's not for residential, so this is not 1 and 2 family homes. This is not for small jobs under $20,000. In fact, the only jobs that would be impacted by this are jobs with a cost of construction of 3.33 million and more. If you have a job that costs 3.33 million, your permit application fee is $25,000. If you have a job that costs $37 million, your permit application fee is $25,000. I'm proposing that we increase that to 50 for 2 reasons. One, there is no other township in New York that have found that has a permit application cap. If you were to do this in Ithaca, your $20 million job would cost you $150,000. So by doing so, we're going to increase ours on a population of people who really could afford to pay it. It doesn't hurt the mom and pop. It still makes us competitive as far as inviting development compared to other municipalities who don't have a cap.
And a chunk of this is going to pay the outside contract that we use to review on these larger
Exactly.
projects, correct?
Yeah. So instead of using half of the money that we receive to have the third party review done, we'll be now using a quarter of the money that we receive to have a third party review done, leaving more of it in our coffers.
Do these types of fees come up when things like pilots are being discussed? Because I can't imagine any projects of that scale not having a pilot agreement, and they're like, it's like kind of paying out of different pots. I was just kind of curious. I haven't been through the process.
These are a couple of the jobs that would have had paid a lot more under this new proposed fee cap. Would be like the Strand Movie Theater on Shenango Street. That's not really a pilot program. That's not public housing. That's, just a standard real estate developer who wants to, convert an existing building into something more viable and profitable. And at $9 million, his fee definitely would have been 50,000 instead of 25.
Yeah, the fees for this are separate from any pilot agreement discussions. This is purely for the review for the plans, the building plans and everything.
Thank you. The specific example was helpful.
Yeah.
Is there a formula that you're gonna use for this, or do you have anything in mind, like square footage, or you just do it like dollar amount of-
the fee is $7.50 per thousand on projects over $20,000. And if you do the right and above it, Nate, is the decimal amount used, it's 0.0075. So if you, and that adds up to, that amounts to $7.50 per thousand. So if you had a job at 3.33 million and you said times 0.0075, you get 25,000. And then we're saying, don't stop there. If your job is 6.66 million and you multiply it times 0.0075, your new fee is now 50,000. If we remove the cap, we would actually collect that 50,000 instead of saying, even though you've exceeded, the cap, we holding it at 25 for you, no matter how big of a job this is.
Thanks.
So you mentioned that it's that other cities don't have a max at all.
No.
What's your interest in keeping a max period?
Yeah, I'm not really, but my suspicion is that the max fee was put in place by some at some point to make Binghamton more inviting for development as opposed to our neighboring communities. So removing it when nobody has a cap at all puts us at the same level of competition. Just increasing it means, we're still doing better than the neighbors, and we might encourage more development. So just asking around to all the interested parties, I got the impression that if we're going to do it, we should do it incrementally.
I'm not sure. I mean, doubling the fee, but we're still going to be competitive. That doesn't.
Yeah.
that
So
doesn't
how
make
about,
any sense
how
to me.
about, yeah, how about this? You want to build a building in Binghamton for $10 million, right? We're going to charge you $50,000 for a permit application. But that same amount, that same building in Ithaca is going to be, there's no cap. So they're going to charge you $750. Actually, Ithaca is $8 per thousand. So Ithaca is going to charge you $80,000. You could build the same building in Binghamton and the fee is only going to be 50,000. So even though we're increasing our cap to 50,000, we're competing with people who have no cap at all. So if you went to Ithaca and built a $20 million building, your fee is going to be $160,000 permit application fee. Same building down here is 50,000. So it's higher than 25, which is what we've historically had, but it's always going to be cheaper than other neighboring communities because they don't have a cap. They'll charge you whatever it is all the way to the top.
I get that, but I mean, I still think it's going to discourage development in the city.
By who? We're talking about big jobs. We're talking about, 200 Court Street, Town and Country. Those jobs they're not worried about $25,000. It's a $37 million job. $25,000 wasn't gonna have them pull out.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, I think our office's position on it is, the cap is there to incentivize development and make us more competitive with other neighboring communities, but I don't think there's a concern because the other neighboring communities don't have that, that this will disincentivize. I think we're trying to find sort of a happy medium, if that makes sense.
I had a question about that. When's the last time we did an audit on the fees?
We increased all of these fees in 2019 or 2020.
We also, each department looks at them every year as part of their budget process. And when we're considering a change, they'll do what Chris did and like make calls around to other neighboring municipalities or put in whatever legwork has to go into those kinds of decisions. So it happens annually through the budget process.
I think 2020, we didn't change the maximum fee. We didn't the cap at that time, but we increased all the incremental fees. The cost of doing a residential job between $1,000 and $5,000, the cost of doing a commercial job between $5,000 and $10,000, all those were adjusted.
I just want to ask, how do you make the distinction between like residential versus commercial? Because the projects that you were bringing up, they're huge.
By the site property classification, residential is in the site property class of 200s, 210 single family, 220 two family, 230 is a 3 family. Everything else is commercial. It's also distinguished that way by the New York State Building Code. There's one book that's dedicated just to 1 and 2 family homes, and everything else is commercial.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, do you have stuff on any of the other pages? Oh.
My last one would be on back to page 105. It doesn't look like you're gonna hit your budget amount for the professional services, back to the processing fees. $6,800. Do you anticipate that number ever reaching 20,000 this year or next year?
Well, the thing about that is that 6,000 is for professional services that was paid to Labella for third-party plan review. And that's only a portion of what we owe them. And that's coming out of the 60,000 that was council approved this summer. The 20,000 is going to be in addition to that for process servers to serve appearance tickets. So now our professional services line actually is being used for 2 different professional services. One's a legal service of serving appearance tickets. The other one is a professional engineering service of doing large set plan review.
It looks to me like you only are budgeting for the process services at $20,000.
Yeah, whatever.
That line, the $60,000 that he got for Labella, and it has a corresponding revenue line in the RL that he mentioned this summer. That 60,000 is going to be fully encumbered by the end of the year, so he's going to use it, whether he spends it or not, and then it'll roll over to next year.
Okay.
He just didn't do it at the time at the budget process.
All right.
Only the process serving fees are not in here at all. They're all in law and they're at about 20,000 so far year to date. So that's where the $20,000 figure came.
Thank you.
Is there a motion? Or any other questions?
Make a motion to close page 74, pages 104, 105. And I'd make a motion to close the code portions of the fee schedule on page 230.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Councilman Hotchkiss to close pages 74, 104, 105, and approve the fee schedule for the
Building code.
building and code items on page 230. Seconded by Councilman Middleton. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm gonna point out, we didn't ask, Councilwoman Middleton didn't ask her normal question, which is.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know we're in the middle of motion, so I can't do it, but
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
throwing it out there that we are still interested in knowing what your what
Needs are.
wasn't included and what you would have liked in the budget. Although we're in the middle of a vote.
Go ahead. Discussion. Is there anything that you'd like to see that you haven't seen or you requested something in the budget?
I'm sorry, no, we don't have any needs or wants. I will say that this is probably the last year for these budgeted amounts. I'm here. I'm just gonna go up. We've been holding the line as much as we can, but honestly, we're doing without in some areas because the cost of doing this with just printer paper and envelopes and toner has gone through the roof. And so that now.
Can I ask you what you're doing without?
Yeah, what we're doing with is that we would have bought in the past, racks, furniture, filing cabinets, things like that are on one more year with have instead of upgrading. So yeah, there's probably gonna be, that's on my wish list is next year.
It's, the cars that code drives.
Yeah.
Are paid for out of just the central garage and they try and maintain them, or you?
History.
Oh.
I don't know. I know throughout history, when we've received cars, some of it's from a grant that some department got, some was a fleet investment that DPW made, and we were able to, inherit some surplus vehicles. One year it was just, money that was, made available through some savings and some other, we don't have a budget line, right? There's no way of
I see that.
knowing exactly. This year we have 3 new vehicles. They were through a grant. And we're very thankful and, we love.
Who pays the gas bill for them?
They're electric
not
cars.
What?
They're electric cars.
Oh, the new ones are, oh, you got the Leafs, right? The new, yeah. Did those actually come in?
Yeah.
We didn't have a ribbon
Now
cutting
we,
for
now
that?
we
with
don't have
ribbon cutting
charging,
for everything
now we
else?
don't have sufficient charging stations to keep them, up and running.
All right.
I had another suggestion. When we looked at the personal services, there are some spots that are vacant. Maybe, not this year, but maybe upping the salary to kind of make it more enticing.
Yeah, yes, recruitment and retention is always an important component of making sure that the department runs smoothly, and sometimes that is going to require adjustments to entry level salaries.
Yeah.
We just went through that 2 years ago, so hopefully we're good for now. Won't last forever, but it's okay tonight.
Anyone else? Okay, back to the motion that's technically on the table, which was motion by I forgot.
Councilman Hotchkiss.
Councilman Hotchkiss, seconded by Councilman Middleton. That was our discussion on the motion. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Porter is absent.
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton, Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon is absent. Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Aye.
Finance Chair Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 5-0.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schneider. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Deputy
Thanks,
Mayor.
everyone. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Appreciate it.
I'd like
Uh,
to make a motion to end this meeting. Or do you have something else to do?
Yeah, I had a lovely speech prepared.
Sorry. I'm so
No.
sorry.
All right. Day 2 of budgeting is over with here. Councilwoman Middleton's bringing us to a screeching halt. Motion by Councilman Middleton to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
By Councilman Costi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?